Welcome to the I Get Better podcast with your hosts, Charlene, Rene, and Phedra Smith, where we discuss topics related to life, love, mental, physical, and spiritual health, and how we can all get better together. Hello, and welcome back to the I Get Better podcast. Thank you guys for joining us today. I am Phedra Smith.
And I am Charlene Rene. Today's topic is I get better when I relax.
Okay, we're going to get into the definition. And according to Webster, the definition of relax is to make less tense or rigid, to make less severe or stringent, so AKA modify, to deprive of energy, zeal, or strength of purpose, to relieve from nervous tension, and then, this is not relevant, but to treat hair chemically in order to relax curls.
Yeah, we know about those relaxers in our community. Right, we relax those edges.
God.
Relax those edges. So we are not talking about that form of relaxing today. We are natural hair, team natural right now.
Team natural.
Okay. Yeah, so we are not talking about the hair relaxation right now. We are going to be focusing on the need to relax in order to reduce stress and anxiety. So I want to kind of read just a few symptoms that demonstrate that you really need to relax. And these are the physical symptoms of stress. So some physical symptoms of stress that may give you a clue that you need to relax are having low energy, having headaches, stomach upset, some aches and pains in your body and your muscles, also having trouble sleeping or experiencing insomnia. These are some things that kind of give you a clue, like things are getting to the point where you really need to slow down and reduce your stress levels. So in order to do that, at times you really need to figure out good ways to relax. So we're going to talk about what are some of the barriers to us relaxing and also some practical ways that we can get better at relaxing.
So one of the barriers that I have is avoidance. I know you hear that and you're like, what? But making yourself so busy that you don't give yourself time to sit down and think, because when you do think, all these things that you have really just tried to avoid, whether it be grief or anger, frustration, hurt, pain, these things start bubbling up. And so we tend to sometimes make ourselves so busy that now we have to deal with these other physical symptoms of stress because we're trying to avoid relaxing because we don't want to give our brain time to bring up things that we've been trying to act like really aren't there. So I think avoidance would be the top one for me.
Yeah, another barrier that I've seen is really not knowing how to relax. So really thinking that to relax, well, it just means massages or taking vacations or bubble baths and things like that. Some people have a skewed view of what it means to relax, and they don't really know how to relax because they can come up with any and every excuse why they're unable to relax. And they don't know what it is. Well, what do you mean relax? How do I do that? I can't do that. If I relax, nothing will get done. Which brings me to another barrier, which is that fear of if I stop working, things won't get done.
Hello, and welcome back to the I Get Better podcast. Thank you guys for joining us today. I am Phedra Smith.
And I am Charlene Rene. Today's topic is I get better when I relax.
Okay, we're going to get into the definition. And according to Webster, the definition of relax is to make less tense or rigid, to make less severe or stringent, so AKA modify, to deprive of energy, zeal, or strength of purpose, to relieve from nervous tension, and then, this is not relevant, but to treat hair chemically in order to relax curls.
Yeah, we know about those relaxers in our community. Right, we relax those edges. Relax those edges. So we are not talking about that form of relaxing today. We are natural hair, team natural right now.
Team natural.
Okay. Yeah, so we are not talking about the hair relaxation right now. We are going to be focusing on the need to relax in order to reduce stress and anxiety. So I want to kind of read just a few symptoms that demonstrate that you really need to relax. And these are the physical symptoms of stress. So some physical symptoms of stress that may give you a clue that you need to relax are having low energy, having headaches, stomach upset, some aches and pains in your body and your muscles, also having trouble sleeping or experiencing insomnia. These are some things that kind of give you a clue, like things are getting to the point where you really need to slow down and reduce your stress levels. So in order to do that, at times you really need to figure out good ways to relax. So we're going to talk about what are some of the barriers to us relaxing and also some practical ways that we can get better at relaxing.
So one of the barriers that I have is avoidance. I know you hear that and you're like, what? But making yourself so busy that you don't give yourself time to sit down and think, because when you do think, all these things that you have really just tried to avoid, whether it be grief or anger, frustration, hurt, pain, these things start bubbling up. And so we tend to sometimes make ourselves so busy that now we have to deal with these other physical symptoms of stress, because we're trying to avoid relaxing, because we don't want to give our brain time to bring up things that we've been trying to act like really aren't there. So I think avoidance would be the top one for me.
Yeah, another barrier that I've seen is really not knowing how to relax. So really thinking that to relax, well, it just means massages or taking vacations or bubble baths and things like that. Some people have a skewed view of what it means to relax, and they don't really know how to relax because they can come up with any and every excuse why they're unable to relax. And they don't know what it is. Well, what do you mean relax? How do I do that? I can't do that. If I relax, nothing will get done. Which brings me to another barrier, which is that fear of, if I stop working, things won't get done. And also the fear, like, I don't deserve to relax. I don't think I'm worthy of relaxing. I have to keep working and stay busy, like you said, either out of avoidance of issues or things they just don't want to stop and think about, or just being fearful that they haven't earned it or they haven't worked hard enough yet. And needing to overcome that barrier is key. And identifying what it really means to relax. It is a health matter. It's a health crisis sometimes. If you do not relax, your blood pressure can get so high that you could have a stroke. You're taxing your heart, putting a lot of pressure on your heart when you're so stressed all the time. Your nerves and your muscles are working so hard that it can make you physically ill if you don't relax.
As the old folks say, my nerves bad. But I know my grandma used to say, my nerves bad, girl, up my head itching, my hair falling out. But those are things that actually happen.
You can lose your hair if you are stressed out. That is so true.
I know.
That happened to me before.
Me too, girl. I had
little hair wouldn't. That poor little string just wouldn't grow past a certain inch. I mean, it wasn't bald, but it wasn't getting longer than a half an inch. I said, "What's going on with my hair?" But I got some stress out of my life, and my hair just done grew back. It's just all luxurious. So,
have you ever heard of FOMO? Fear of missing out?
FOMO, yes, I have heard of FOMO.
I thought of that also as being one of the reasons why people just be on the go. It's like, child, sit down. It's okay if you don't see this.
You don't have to go everywhere all the time. Chill. But we're gonna get into that on a whole nother episode of that FOMO thing, because that really is a big issue, and it does cause a lot of anxiety.
Right. So let's talk about some practical ways that we can relax. What you got?
Yes. Okay. So, some practical ways that you can relax. First and foremost is to figure out your thing. What is your thing that is relaxing for you? So, what's relaxing for me and what's relaxing for the next person might not necessarily look like the same thing. I know me personally, I like to relax by being at home, taking a nice hot bubble bath. Anybody knows me knows I like a good bubble bath, some smooth music, maybe, some bubbly or something, low lights, candles. That is very relaxing for me. Another thing I like to do to relax is to roller skate. Like, I love going roller skating. Like, I feel so free on my skates with my music in my ears, and it's just really relaxing for me. I don't have a care in the world when I do that.
No, that's stressful for me because I'm trying not to fall.
Well, you need to get your skills up like me. And then it will be fun and not stressful.
Too many cheering on the floor.
That's why I got to go on grown up night. So, but for other people, I know some people, like my mom, for example, she loves to clean up. That's her way to de-stress. So she'll go on like a cleaning spree to clear her mind, and she'll just go in beast mode and just be cleaning up the house and rearranging furniture. She'll come home, she will have rearranged your whole house. She don't even live there. And she like, well, I think the couch looks better over there. And I'm like, who told you to come and rearrange my whole house around because you wanted to relax? That's just not gonna work.
That's not okay.
So find your thing. Figure out what it is that you really enjoy doing that relaxes you. And the next way that you can practically be getting better at relaxing is to prioritize it. Make it something that you must do, that's non-negotiable. So that means you have to put relaxation time in your schedule and in your budget. Sometimes it doesn't have to cost money to do something relaxing or something fun, but sometimes it does. And if you can't prioritize it as the same way you prioritize paying bills, which aren't relaxing and aren't fun, then you're really doing yourself a disservice, because most of us, we work hard and we want to have something to do that's enjoyable with our time and our resources other than just pay bills. So make it a priority that you do have that one day a week or one night a week where you're just chilling, doing whatever you like to do without being interrupted or disturbed by other people who are not going to contribute to your stress-free life. So those are a couple of practical ways. You have a few more or a couple more?
Yeah. I was gonna say, so another way I would say is knowing how to ask for help. So asking for help could look like you're reaching out to a therapist or reaching out to a mentor or a friend or your pastor or whoever you feel like you need to ask for help. It could be asking your children, for help, giving them responsibilities. So a part of that I think goes along with also being able to release the need for control, to really just be able to let go. And I think
you don't have to do everything and be everything to everybody and be in charge of everything.
Right.
And I've heard that, especially with women, because I find like a lot of my women clients carry a lot of stress and anxiety about things, even more so than the male clients, even though they carry it too. But a lot of it's related to what you just said, not asking for help and feeling like they have to do everything or it's not going to be done right.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's better to be relaxed than for everything to be done right.
I agree. I have had to start letting go. Like, I mean, it used to bother me not being able to have everything perfectly done. And then I had to realize that I've got to save some room for me. I've got to be able to save some room to be able to relax at night, to be able to remember things. Because when my mind is just overtaken with things, then I have, my memory is elapsed, So I have, one of the things I've done with clients is, and I'll encourage some of the viewers, if you want to try this, to get a paper plate and to get some of your kids' Legos or something And for everything that you have on your plate, I want you to put it on there. I want you to name it and put it on there. And most likely what's going to happen is that plate is going to start overflowing. Things are going to start falling off. And that's practically kind of that's what happens in our lives. One of the first things to go is our self-care.
Yep.
And so one of the things we as women or as individuals, as parents, as whoever, need to learn how to do is to say no. Have boundaries for your life, because that's a part of that self-care. That's a part of that relaxation, to say, you know what, I really just physically cannot do this. So
right. Yeah. And no is a complete sentence. You do not have to explain yourself.
I like that.
So I heard that somewhere. I think I read it. No, but no, it is. It's a complete sentence. And setting those boundaries is definitely important to relaxing and keeping your stress levels down. If you need to take a break and don't feel guilty about it, because nothing's more important than your health. You won't be able to do anything or accomplish any of those things on your plate if you aren't physically healthy enough to do so.
Yeah,
and then you'll be giving up control by force and not by choice. Because now someone's going to have to take care of you and all the things that you're not able to do because you're laid up, with whatever ailment. And stress, it accumulates over time. There's so many things that biologically happen to your body when it's exposed to stress, high levels of stress over a long period of time, that some of it takes a while to correct.
Yeah, I agree with that. Some of it really does start to change your chemistry, the chemicals in your brain, and then, I could go on and on about the brain, but it does have it can have a long-term effect on you, and it can affect future generations behind you. So, what we are talking about might seem very small, like, oh, just relax, girl. But if you look at the impact that it can have, not only on your life, but your children's lives and your children's lives, these are things that can get passed on. So at some point, we as individuals have to learn how to break that cycle by learning how to say no, and still knowing that the person, they still love you, and not having that guilt and shame that might come along with that. And, just so y'all know, I had to learn how to do that also. As a therapist, I have to have my own therapist. I had to learn how to say no and have barriers, because that is a huge part of being able to survive. So
definitely take these keys and these tips and these tools and utilize them. And we want to really hear back from you on this one. I want everyone who hears this episode to go on our page on Facebook and sound off and let us know what you are doing, what you are intentionally prioritizing and making a point in your life to do to relax. So let us know, what do you like to do? What's your favorite thing to do to relax? And give some tips to some of our fellow listeners out there, because they may not know what they could do to relax. So speak back to us on that. Continue to get better at saying no and setting those boundaries so that you can be physically there to enjoy all the things in life that you want to enjoy.
Yeah, I like that. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. That's our time. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe. You can also send us questions or topics that you want to hear discussed on the show. And until next time, let's keep getting better so that we can do better in order to be better. Hello and welcome back. To those that are new to the podcast, we welcome you. Thanks for joining us on today's show. I am Phedra Smith.
And I'm Charlene Rene.
And today's topic of the day is I get better when I use wisdom.
Ooh.
So we're going to jump into the definition. What's the definition that you have for wisdom, Charlene?
Okay, according to our Webster/Merriam dictionary, it is the soundness of an action or decision with regard to the application of experience, knowledge, and good judgment, or the ability to think and act using knowledge, experience, understanding, common sense, and insight. Furthermore, it is also the ability to discern inner qualities and relationships.
Wow, I like that third one.
Yeah, so wisdom is very important.
I completely agree. I have a quote that I was reading a book the other day, and it's a quote by Jeffrey. I can't say this man's last name. Starts with a C. Anyways,
give that man his credit. Put some respect on his name.
And Jeffrey starts with a G. The greatest scholars are not usually the wisest people. And I thought, man, I got to write that down. Because it's so true.
Yeah, we're going to get into why that is true. But I would like to follow it up with a quote as well.
All right.
From the good book. The good book. And it brings me to mind of this scripture, and I've heard it quite a time or two. And it's Proverbs 4:7. And it says, wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. So when I hear that, I think principal thing means first. So get that first. That's priority. And that's why it's important for us to get better at getting wisdom and utilizing wisdom in our decision making. So there's our quotes. Let's go ahead and jump right in and talk about some of the barriers to getting wisdom.
One of the barriers I came up with was emotion. Sometimes, I know in my experience, emotion has gotten in front of me being wise, me making wise decisions, me reacting in the wisest of ways. I allowed emotion to control that and dictate that. So I think that is a barrier.
Yep. Do not lead your decisions with emotions. It will get you in a world of trouble oftentimes. Right. And another barrier to getting wisdom is confusion. When you are confused about something, you're going to have a very difficult time making wise choices and wise decisions. And that's why that second part of getting wisdom in that scripture that says, with all thy getting, get understanding, is an important part of gaining wisdom. Because when you are confused, usually it's because you don't understand something. And it's going to be difficult to make decisions based on lack of knowledge and lack of understanding.
Yeah, I heard a quote. It says we are destroyed by our lack of knowledge. But man, you can have a lot of knowledge, but if you don't have that understanding, that reason why, it really does kind of just leave you still hanging out in the air. I like that.
Yeah. And so let's talk about a few examples of situations where wisdom just kind of comes in handy and it was helpful to you or I and in our lives. So I'll let you give an example, but I really think of this episode of the show that I love, which everybody who knows me knows. I love the Golden Girls. And on that show, of course, you got Dorothy, who's seen as the wise person in the house, and you got Rose. And it was an episode where, just to really briefly give you the synopsis of what happened. So Rose had somebody threatening her or something like that. They were sending her all kinds of threats and things in the mail. So she got a letter in the mail and she was afraid to open it. And she was like, what if there's a deadly spider in there? And when I open it, it jumps out, it's going to bite me. So Dorothy just throws the envelope on the floor and starts jumping up and down on it and stomping on the envelope. And so Rose looks at her and she's like, you're wise. You're just wise. And I just cracked up because she didn't even think. Like, of course, we know Rose is kind of ditzy, but she didn't even take the knowledge and understanding and apply it to the situation to where it's like, okay, if there is a spider in there, you can just kill it before you open it. So yeah. It wasn't that she didn't know it, but it was like she wasn't tapping into that wisdom. And she recognized it. And she's like, you're just wise. You're just So anyway, so what's your example of it?
So mine isn't as funny, but so my example of having to use wisdom has been and still is ongoing in my personal financial development. So I remember going through Financial Peace University. I went through it with my husband the first time, and then I actually helped my cousin teach the class for our church a second time. And my struggle is still not purchasing things based off of my feeling. But when I look back, my struggle has always been in the past, not saying things based on feeling. So I am still working through that, and I'm walking through that even in my financial life, being able to use wisdom in my purchases. And a part of me using wisdom has meant that I have to set up goals, long-term goals that I'm trying to aspire to in order to, in my short term, in my decision making on my daily basis, being able to look forward at my long-term goals so that I can make wise decisions based on what I want for the future.
Right. So then you would say that being wise in your finances is something you can use every single day. And
Every day.
And it's also not enough to just have the knowledge and the information.
No.
But you have to be able to utilize it in the moment.
Yeah.
And taking that application of the knowledge is key. Because
Yes.
we can know information all day. That's why they said the scholars aren't the most wise. They have plenty of information, but sometimes it requires something beyond just the information.
Absolutely.
And we're definitely going to get into that. So let's get into some practical ways to get better at getting wisdom. Let's talk about that.
So one of the things that I wrote down for myself was to surround myself around wise counsel. So I remember before my grandfather passed away, he was one of the people that I always called, and it wasn't any shame in it. I definitely milked him for his wisdom, because he was a studier of the word, and he read his Bible, he prayed, he meditated. And so he was kind of like Dorothy in that he just saw things very practically. And I think being able to sit back and to say, just stump on the envelope, that is very important, to be able to just say, just do this. Because sometimes we get so caught up in trying to go too deep that we forget to just do the practical things. That wisdom is very practical. It's
that common sense, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the time it's not a whole bunch of book reading and lecture listening to. It's just simply utilizing experience and common sense. Yeah. And so many people lack that, unfortunately. And not to be condescending, but I've come across quite a few people who just lack that common sense, and they're very intelligent. Their IQs are very high, but wisdom will get you in the places that your intelligence, your IQ will not.
Yeah, that was some hot stuff right there.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's a word.
That's a word.
So definitely surrounding yourself with wise people. You're typically going to be the wise person to someone. They're going to be able to come to you. But even the most wise people have another person that they can consult with, who can counsel them. And a lot of the times, you might want to look to your elders, your grandparents, those people who have been there, done that, who can tell you things that a school book isn't necessarily going to teach you.
Right. I think having multiple resources is really important, because there's things that you don't want to talk to your grandparents about. There's things you might not want to share with your closest friend or your pastor. And so you might need a therapist. I think having multiple channels is very important, because it just really kind of opens you up for being able to get real with yourself, but also to be able to see things from a different perspective. Having those multiple channels is super important. So the other thing that I would say is taking a moment to pause versus just reacting is very wise. I think it gives your brain enough time to say, slow down, and be able to use that higher functioning part of your brain that says, girl, stop.
Like you said, not acting out of emotion. That, I heard that called your lizard brain, it's instinctual and you just move.
I like that.
Stopping to think. I read it in a book. I didn't make it up. A book.
No.
Yeah. So but that lizard brain is just instinctual. It doesn't stop to think. It just reacts. And sometimes we, through habit or from trauma or whatever, will react to things, and wisdom doesn't even have time to show up.
Yeah.
to the scene. They come to the scene after the fact when it's all said and done. And
the damage has been done.
You've done what you shouldn't have done because you were reacting out of emotion and not taking that second to stop and pause, or minute, or days for that matter, to pause.
So you mentioned being able to have discipline as being super important also. Would you like to expound on that?
So yeah, another practical way to work on getting better at wisdom is to really tap into that insight piece and that ability to apply what you know. And a lot of that is found through discipline. So when we talk about the fact that people sometimes know how to do the right thing, for example, when you said about money and not spending or overspending or buying out of emotion, it requires a level of discipline to be able to tap into wisdom and to get to where you want to be. And if you're not exercising it and practicing it, you will find yourself not getting better and not making wiser choices and wiser decisions because you don't have that discipline in place.
Right.
So practically, the way to get better at something is to practice. So sometimes you just have to practice exercising discipline as it relates to your decision making.
I agree with that.
And then you have one more practical way for us to get better at wisdom.
I think I kind of talked about it, using knowledge versus emotion. And we talked about also that element of pride not becoming an obstacle for people.
Okay, yeah. So remaining teachable. You want to remain teachable. You want to put yourself in a one down position sometimes. Yeah. And so one down means you put your pride to the side and let someone else be the teacher for the moment.
Yeah, you would be surprised. I mean, I know for me, I have really had to check myself and be like, no, this is a moment where you need to remain open to being teachable, because you really will block yourself from getting information that can be completely life-changing if you don't remain open and you don't remain teachable and you don't squash the pride. So I think that's a huge one.
For sure. So those are some practical ways to get better at wisdom. Just a few examples of where wisdom is important. But gaining wisdom, keep that as a priority in life. One other thing I want to say before we wrap up, when you talk about wisdom, sometimes it refers to a part of yourself that you're tapping into that you can't necessarily explain. And wisdom looks like a higher level of intellect at times and brings you into that insight. So insight is not something that's easily explained or seen. And sometimes you just have this feeling in you, in your gut, in your mind, in your head, and you'll know something, or some voice will tell you something about a situation. And we may ignore it because we're thinking logically. And logic is not always your friend. You want to use knowledge and application, but logic, I think, is even inferior to wisdom. So getting better at wisdom will bring you to a whole nother level of success, because wisdom will tell you things that a school book or a professor or a teacher can't always tell you. So getting better at that, it just opens you up to a whole nother level of life. In my experience, in really recognizing when something is wisdom too, and not just my own knowledge and ability, but like, wow, that was really above and beyond. I don't know where I got this from, but it was great and it was helpful.
Right. Well, I think that's why it's so important to take that pause. Taking that pause really does allow you to self-reflect, but also just listen to that soft voice that's leading you or pointing you into a direction.
And sometimes the voice does come through counsel and another person.
Yeah. So, I 100% agree. But most likely that voice that counsel that you've gotten, most likely you already heard it from somewhere else. If you were to like take a moment to pause and self-reflect, I'm a firm believer, and I tell my clients that you already have the knowledge that you need, but sometimes we have to take a moment to get quiet, to really hear what you need from yourself and allow yourself to take that pause.
and exercise discipline in applying that knowledge.
Yes, ma'am. I feel like we can go on and on about this.
Right. Well, we're going to wrap it up. We're going to not keep rambling on because there is so much to say about
yeah.
But we did want to at least touch on that topic for today. And of course, remind you to keep tuning in, to rate, review, and subscribe to the I Get Better podcast. Make sure you reach out to us with your questions and comments. You can inbox us through direct messaging, through email, and let us know what you think. And let us know what you want to hear on the show. So keep tuning in. And until next time, keep getting better.